Our next speaker, we're actually very pleased to have here. We took a few hits below the waterline in the process because he's nothing if he isn't controversial. But I like to make the point that remote viewing would be nowhere near as widely known if it wasn't for Ed Dames. And some people have trouble with some of the things he said. Other people are very happy with it. I'm not going to pass any judgment here. It's up to Ed to represent himself well. But he and I go back a long ways. I first met him in 1983. We both went down to the Monroe Institute to get that experience. And we rode together on the bus. And I remember hearing some of the most fascinating things I had ever heard in the course of that conversation. Okay? And Ed has not ceased presenting fascinating things since that day. In fact, he probably didn't start on that day. He probably started well before that. But nonetheless, controversial as he is also very fascinating, very interesting, and has a lot of provocative things to say. And he definitely has made remote viewing, brought it up to the forefront to whatever degree that's possible under the current paradigm. He's brought it up there because of exposure through coast to coast, as many interviews with Art Bell, the many things he's done. He's taught many, many people remote viewing and is continuing to do that. And so I'm excited and eager to hear what he has to say, so let me introduce Ed Dames.
Thanks, Doc. I'm pretty comfortable here. About half the class here have been my students or trainees, so and they're familiar with what I'm going to say momentarily before we get into operations work. I'm not a card-carrying member of the IRVA. In fact, I kind of ascribe to the Groucho Marx dictum of I wouldn't join any club that would have me as a member. But that may change now. Okay? I started my own intelligence organization because I got fed up with the ones that I worked for as a military officer. And that was 20 years ago. So the Matrix Intelligence Agency is a small group, because we don't need a lot of remote viewers. We need a small group of professionals, about 8 at any given time, to solve any problem. I'll talk about that momentarily. But what I'd like to say first is an hour goes by fast, and I know there are a lot of questions. People have told me they want to ask questions. So what I'd like to do is a couple of things to speed that process along. I'd like to keep this informal as possible. So I'd like to be myself, which I cannot be on coast to coast or in the media, because there's a 15-second delay. So I can't tell jokes in coast to coast, west of the Rockies style, this kind of thing. So I would like to keep it informal. I'd like to talk maybe 20 minutes max, and then open it up for questions. If there's still more questions after my hour is up, I can entertain them at the bar or out here at the tables, anywhere you want. I'm free until about 5 o'clock, and then I actually have a party to go to with Playboy Playmates. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. So I'm, why couldn't this happen when I'm unattached? So I have a fiance, and I commute from Ukraine. I live on the Russian border near Lugansk. In fact, I think it was just a coincidence, probably, when I announced on Coast to Coast that I want to kill Shamil Basayev. I want to put a bullet in him, and because I cannot do that myself, I have to pass his whereabouts to the FSB, who took over from the KGB, right? And it was just a coincidence that I happened to be back in Ukraine on the Russian border when they caught up with Mr. Basayev, and they neutralized him. He was the architect of the Bestland massacre and was on my shit list, #1. So I wanted him dead. And we have the wherewithal to find him, or anything or anybody. We'll talk about that momentarily. So, who I really am is I'm kind of the Lee Iacocca and the Ted Turner of remote viewing. Yeah, I'm a good salesman for remote viewing because I love it. I was Ingo Swann's protege for a while until I pissed him off. But I became his protege not because I was the best remote viewer on the team, but because I loved it more than he did. It's so tremendous. I'm not easily entertained. I've been in this business for 2 decades, and I'm still in awe of remote viewing, completely in awe. Yes, we have a good model. We have to have a model to teach it and to work it. And I'll talk about that momentarily, but I'm still in awe. And we're out on the streets doing it. My students know that they're good. My students are the best. And they're the best because I use intimidation and threats. I am a flaming asshole in the classroom. Discipline and rigor. And I'm not a nice guy, contrary to popular belief, because nice guys finish last. I do not take that gracefully, and I don't want to see it in myself or my students or my employees who are fired if they don't get it right. We fire them. It's not, oh, that's okay, do a good job. These people are professionals. They're the best that there is. But a couple of weeks ago, 4 days after the aviator Stephen Fawcett disappeared, I went on the national radio program and said, this man is dead. Now, everybody's still waiting for him to walk out of the desert somewhere. In fact, he wasn't in the desert. Not only did I say this man is dead, but we're going to pinpoint his location and find him. So we have a turnkey operation. I don't report to the police where bodies are or whatever. We go from start to finish. We do the remote viewing. I'll walk you through those steps with the Fawcett case momentarily. And we go out in the field and do it ourselves. As I have a couple of team members in the audience, too, and they'll tell you what that's like. It's very exciting. It's very hard. We fund our own operations, no handouts. We pay for everything using products and our own work, and we're successful. The reason that I said that Fawcett is dead when everybody expected him to walk out was not arrogance, and it wasn't foolishness. It was confidence. We're that confident in our work. You can imagine my career would have been over if he did walk out after 4 days. But not only did we know he was dead, we knew the disposition of the wreckage of his aircraft and those kinds of things too. And it took us 2 decades to do it, but we solved the search problem. We did not have this degree of confidence in the military unit, nor could we solve the search problem. Now, I don't think I have to go into details about the search problem with this body right here, because you're familiar with what that means. Not only did we solve the search problem, but we can now get any known target, whether it's Stephen Fawcett, Shamil Basayev, or whatever, a treasure, down to a gnat's ass on the ground. Pinpoint location, I mean within 10 or 15 feet of the location. Take a GPS, program the GPS, and we walk ourselves or fly ourselves to the position. So half my team was tasked, when I took on the Stephen Fawcett case, for instance, is our recent one, half my team was tasked with the description of his present location, not the aircraft, because we don't assume anything in our work, of course. Stephen Fawcett's present location. And then the other half of my team went to work on what we call geofix, fixing the actual location. We had that down to about a mile square area. And this was after the search was called off. Our search will not be called off. We'll find him. I'm going on record right now saying that we'll find this man. So we had the grid down to about one square mile, and I figured that was enough to go in with an aerial recon, that we'd be able to spot wreckage within a 1 mile square. So this was just after the search had been called off. The search was searching Nevada. We fixed Stephen's body north of Yosemite, in Yosemite Wilderness area. And the reason he was there was Mr. Fawcett started his career as a glider pilot. He was a world-class glider pilot. And he was going to host a glider fest, a glider contest later this year, actually early next year. And he was scouting out locations to do this over the mountains. Those mountains experience winds of about 100 miles an hour over the peaks, especially in the winter. And he got caught. And he had an aircraft with a 90 horsepower engine. That's not enough to get back up out of those canyons. So that's where he bit it, in there. As I mentioned before, there's no need to cry for Stephen Fawcett unless you're his loved ones, because he lived life to the fullest. You and I should die like that. I have a life like that. He went out in style. So, but we are going to retrieve his body. So, because we didn't have satellite coverage of that area, we had to go it alone. So I have a field team. This team is my boys in the field. They're the ones that went down to Aruba in the Natalie Holloway search, where they had to actually swim 100 yards underwater because there was an off-limits area where her killers had dumped her body off of the refinery in Aruba. So these folks do a lot of my field work for me when I can't be on the ground. By the time they hit the area operations, winter had set in, first snow was on the ground. No pilot in their right mind would fly over those mountains, but they found 2 pilots that were not in their right minds. They were Russian airline pilots, and who walked over and asked my team member James if he had a brush to brush the snow off of their Cessna 172, which they had rented to tour the Grand American West. And James talked these Russians. I know Russians. I live on the Russian border now, so I know how crazy they can be. Talked them into flying over this area. Took 30 minutes for the 172 to get up to 10,000 feet, and then they had to go 4,000 feet higher above ground over those mountains, or else they would meet the same fate that Stephen Fawcett did. At that time and at that altitude, we didn't have enough resolution to be able to pick out debris. I had actually, if you go to the coast-to-coast websites, there's some video up there and some stills from the recon. But the camera's shaky because the heads were actually hitting the cabin roof. The turbulence was that great, and that's 4,000 feet above the mountain. So you can imagine what Fawcett ran into with that plane that was not a glider when he died. It was those winds. So what we have to do now is we have to take, and what we will do, we have to take that 1 mile square area, spend another week and a half, and get it down to 100 meters, 300 foot square. And then we will buy spot imagery, $1,200. And if we see the records there, then we will rent a Bell Jet Ranger or a Dolphin, which is about $875 an hour. And that's expensive, and we will go in ourselves and get ground truth, visual ground truth. We're not going to retrieve his body or touch but we'll get ground truth. So that's the kind of thing that we do. What I wanted is Jacques Vallée still here? Yeah. Jacques, are you here?
He had a meeting yet.
Okay, I really wanted to tell him about our flagship operation, and that's the Le Saut Blanc. I think I've mentioned, my students know about this operation. My team members have been on the ground with me there on the recon. There were there was a French pilot and a French aviator who beat Charles Lindbergh across the Atlantic by 1 week. Their plane disappeared. It's a very famous case. They're solely missed by the French people. Very much loved. Charles Nungasser was the #1 air ace of World War I. The navigator that he had in the back seat was the best navigator in France. Their plane was custom built to go east to west against the wind, which was a much more difficult task than Lindbergh faced. And they disappeared. Now, there were reports of hearing an aircraft above Maine, Newfoundland, and other places like that. People went out to look for them. Ironically, this was the first target that my mentor, Ingo Swan, ever gave me as a student to work. After I had graduated from his training, Ingo gave this to me to work. He was not able to find the Le Saut Blanc, nor was I at that time. 20 years later, it isn't a problem. We can find anything. It's just a matter of time. In fact, that plane did make it, and it made it all the way to New Hampshire, to the mountains of New Hampshire. And we used this new geofix technique to find the location of the engine. The engine was a magnesium. It wasn't stainless steel. What was that engine? I'm sorry? No, it was aluminum. It was an aluminum engine. And our sketches, our remote viewing sketches, show parts of that engine still sticking up above ground, but covered with blackberry bushes. We went in on a recon of the area. We always go in on a recon to get a feel for the area, and then we refine both our remote viewing and our operation. What are we going to do next? I don't think there's a case that we ever had, whether it's a missing child or the BTK killer or whatever, where we hadn't had to do 1 or 2 recons of the area and then refine our tasking. The geofix technique, solving the search problem, has eliminated a lot of work for us. Now, we still have not solved the time problem. As professionals, that's still a bugbear. We're not very interested in it at this juncture because we're having too much fun with geofix. But at some point, we think we've gained some insight into the time problem, but we're not sure yet. Our model for how we work is this. There's only one mind. You do not have your own mind. The mind-body interface is this. There's just a mind field, one mind, and everything in the universe exists as a pattern of information. Everything as a pattern of information. Unconscious, your brain is an oscillator, it's an electrical oscillator. When you turn your conscious attention to something, your unconscious attention immediately follows. That is plugged into the global mind. And your unconscious is operating, it's the link between the global mind, the universal mind, whatever you want to call it, not the collective unconscious. I'll hark back to that momentarily. Unconscious now needs a syntax, a grammar. It already has a conduit to pass information to conscious awareness, the tip of the iceberg, conscious awareness, the rest is down here. You can't handle that much information, so you need the tip of the iceberg, like a modulator or demodulator in a computer. The computer has access to all of the internet, but it can only handle so much at a time. That's why you have a liminal gate. Conscious awareness is that tip of the iceberg. Unconscious passes information up to that. But it needs a syntax and grammar. That's what was discovered in the SRI. My job was to take that syntax and grammar, the model that Ingo Swann created, say thank you very much, take that into the deep dark world of intelligence and massage it into a useful intelligence collection tool. We did not have to worry about being politically correct when we did that, nor did we have to worry about the next paycheck. We crashed and burned it many times, but we picked ourselves back up. We absorbed our losses, and we moved forward over and over again. 2 decades later, we're here. We're here to the point where you can say, this man is dead, and this is where he is. So I think what I want to do is open this up for questions, and then we'll move through as fast as possible. I want to cover as much ground as fast as possible because I know you have a lot of questions, and I think that's the best way to handle this presentation. Paul, how do you wish to handle questions?
First the question, then the answer.
All right.
Okay, we'll do it the same way. Come over here if you have a question, and then we'll pass the mic to you. Please say your name so that we have it on the tape. We don't have to have it.
I'm Ed James. Oh, you.
You know how many years it's taken before you mastered that? Okay, here you go.
Hi, Ed. I'm Stephen Hall from Altamont Springs, Florida. Seems to me you're a bit of a gambler. I know you'll deny that to make a statement such as you have. And I've gone to the coast-to-coast site. I've seen your maps. Very dramatic. Seems to me you have perhaps a big problem in either case. First of all, if you're correct, and by golly, I think we all hope that you are not only going to get big press, obviously you're going to get a flood of students that are going to want to take your courses. I would think it would be just huge and very dramatic. The other side of that, though, is what would you say then, what would be your response if, in fact, he's found in somewhere in Nevada instead of in California where you indicated? If that's possible, do you even think that's possible? I know you believe in the accuracy of your team, but how would you handle the PR on that?
Well, first of all, I'd take it up with God and say, man, you and I have a bone to pick with you. Yeah, it is dramatic. And all my exes have called me a drama queen, and they're probably right. But you have to, let's face it, this is about as big as we're going to get. I use the we word now because I'll probably come back next year and probably be a card-carrying member. But we're not going to break out of this niche market unless something bold happens. That it's not going to happen. I will be on the Oprah Winfrey Show soon and all of that kind of stuff. But you've got to have, the reason I have not been on Larry King and Oprah and I have been invited to go is because I want to bring something to the table of substance. I want to bring a big success. We have I teach here every month, and my teammates here have won a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, gambling. But that's still not what we want to bring out there to the public and how we want to present ourselves. We want to say, this is our origins as a military intelligence tool, and this is where we come with it. This is how it's evolved. By the way, 2 of the things that we were doing wrong, the mistakes that had to be corrected in the military unit, for those of you who are familiar with the old coordinate remote viewing, we homesteaded stage 4, big mistake. We lost the target, number 1. And the creation of what I call a site template, an idea template, in in executing that particular idea template, there's built-in. Why did this evolve? It evolved because I had to find a way to commercialize remote viewing and put it in a package that people could learn at home. And I was pulling my hair out because I didn't think it was possible. But one day, I had the light bulb went off, and I said, it is possible. That's why it works. But it was the challenge of commercializing the skill. This is a skill. The challenge of commercializing it and standardizing it. It's really what brought this forward. Those were huge breakthroughs, very big breakthroughs. The GeoFix work we did in-house. That took a long time and a lot of work, too. We used spin-offs from GeoFix to win a lot of money here. But who needs a lot of money?
I'm not going to let you get away with diverting from the part two of the
What would I
question,
do?
which is, what would you do if you don't succeed?
I'd eat a whole lot of crow. A whole lot of crow, too. But you know what? I'd eat a lot more crow if he turns up alive, right? At day 4, we said that. Day 4 now. Was I taking a risk? I already told you, no. That was not done out of foolishness and arrogance. I'm foolish and arrogant now because I have a big ego. But that ego, when you remote view, it better be wrapped and hogtied. You can put it back on when you're through with the session. Don't bring it into the session. Do not do that. My students know that well. I'll bite the big one. I will bite the big one if he's found in Idaho or Nevada.
Hello, this is Russ Targ. Our remote viewing activity, Delphi Associates, got a lot of attention in 1982, as you know, when we used ARV to forecast silver markets. We were successful 9 times in a row and made a lot of money. We're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and Nova made a film about us, which has since disappeared. That's another issue. They made a film called The Case of ESP, and we're in the New York Times. And I think that one of the ways to get legitimacy for the field is to make a lot of money and publicize that how you did that and what you did. Because, as you know, we spent 20 years publishing in the proceedings of the IEEE and Nature and so forth. Nobody really cared about that at all because we don't know how it works. We don't have a proven model for psychic ability. So I wonder what kind of success you've had with using ARV or one of its stepchildren for making money in the market. Are you willing to talk about what you've done and how that worked?
I am, to a certain degree. The GeoFix is going to remain proprietary for a while. It's a goose that laid the golden egg to us. We're working treasure targets and all kinds of things now. In terms of gambling, we started out with sports betting. Sports betting is where we made our money, a lot of money. Remote viewing is a 3-part process. It's setting up the queue correctly, the search term. The words that we use, the word ideas, are interpreted literally by the matrix, the global mind, literally, just like an internet database search. Your intention means nothing. It's the way that queue is set up. If I was interested in, let's say, finding information about the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln, Gettysburg Address, and I punched in Gettysburg Address in, let's say, a Google search, a contemporary database search there too. I get a whole bunch of stuff, and my intent may have been only the Gettysburg Address, but because I put in a generic queue, I get a whole bunch of other stuff too that I didn't want. Those cues are interpreted literally, and we've trained unconscious to do this over time, literally by the matrix. That's part one. You got to get that right. The skill itself turns out to be relatively easy to teach. Yes, there are advanced techniques and things like that, but people can learn remote viewing at the drop of a... It's very easy to teach. I think, Russ, you've said that too before. It is easy to teach. There aren't that many steps. There's nominally about 400 steps. Let's say that's equivalent to if you've never baked a pineapple upside-down cake before, there's nominally 400 things you have to know. If you've never been in the kitchen, never touched an oven, never the ingredients, you could probably outline to someone a flow chart about how to cook this cake. If you followed those steps, even though you think you couldn't do it, if you followed the steps, the cake would come out all right. So that's a pretty easy thing to teach. Analysis is difficult. Lots of pitfalls in analysis. Unconscious has a language all its own. You better know it in order to get it right. That's where people can mess up. Despite your cueing could be perfect, the target search term, your skill can be perfect, but people will pigeonhole the data, the resulting data from the session, into their own worldview or bias. So not only maybe they left their biases behind, which they have to do in order to be successful in remote viewing, but they may have picked them back up and tried to pigeonhole the results into it. ARV, GeoFix is actually a hybrid of ARV and technical remote viewing. It's a hybrid system. It isn't pure ARV. Where we were failing is the cue, the search term. Unconscious was giving us exactly what we asked for. Let me give you just a couple of small examples there. Once I tell you about these, it'll seem like we should have known that, but we didn't. I was teaching a workshop in Portland one day, and the students, I teach them how to win money in gambling, on sports betting, and it happened to be a day that the Super Bowl was on. I said, okay, guys, you want to make some money? Especially in Vegas, the students go out, and we teach them how to win at roulette, too. I've had people walk right out to the roulette table and win $5,000 like that. It saturates. You can only get away with this for about 20 minutes max. 20 minutes using ARV. Then you fall into an ennui. Unconscious novelty acts as a stimulus. As you know, clinical psychologists are very aware of this. The novelty is gone. The first time effect is there, and you want to keep that. But you have to walk away and come back after about 20 minutes or 30 minutes later and do it again. The cues, though, were wrong. So in the Portland case, it was, let's see, we have a really cute shortcut. If you try to look at the winning team of, let's say, a Super Bowl game, the data, it's a homogeneous set. You've got a binary set, but it's very difficult to pick out a winning team because everybody's wearing helmets and jerseys. Symbols are okay as supporting data, but sometimes they don't work well. So what we do is the cue becomes next Super Bowl football game / and we qualify the search term just like you would in an electronic database search, winning team's hometown / most recognizable feature. So context, meaning needs context. The meaning, which becomes our target, is the winning team's hometown most recognizable feature. All the rest is context. This appears in our site template at the end of a session, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, as a diagrammatic sketch, a wiring diagram containing all the essential elements of information about the problem and its solution. It's there in diagrammatic form. It's much easier to see a palm tree and the St. Louis Arch than it is, and to resolve that immediately, to actually draw it using traditional methods, than it is to use ARV and try to pick the teams out. Okay. So that's the way we handle it in an orthodox way. If we were to use ARV, it's very, very important to get that cue right. In the case of the Portland thing, in the Portland Super Bowl game, we were working that target, we were working the session while the game was going on. And most of the resulting data was of the team that lost the Super Bowl. Because at the time we were working it, we got exactly what we wanted, the winning team. At that moment, the losers were winning, and we were working at real time. So you live and learn. We incorporate those kinds of mistakes into our new database. ARV, what I'll say right now is that you can't go more than 20 minutes without your unconscious saying, I'm out of here, and falling into an ennui. That's number one. Number two is the cue, and setting that up. We discovered that the cue is all important. And we use binary situations. We don't spread them out with like a horse race, for instance. We're not going to use something like that. We always use a binary situation where you have mutually exclusive states in time. It's either this team wins or loses. So I think that was one of the biggest discoveries is back out after a few minutes. Those of you who want to win at the roulette table, you can use shortcuts there too, and it's not even ARV. You can calibrate yourself. If you want to learn how to win at the short, I can tell you in 1 minute. It's easy, and you can win some money. I've done it even when I'm drunk, sitting down. So your body your unconscious is hooked directly into your autonomic nervous system. Our job as remote viewers is do an end run completely around the thinking mind analysis. Go to the roulette table. Wait till the ball is thrown down there in the hoop. And stand there. quietly, and women can do this usually better than men, stand very quietly and watch which way your body sways. Just watch. If it's swaying to the left, your intent is to determine whether that ball is going to land on red or black. We won't talk about green momentarily. That's too technical. Red or black. So if that's what you want to do, which way is your body swaying? If it's swaying to the left, watch where that ball goes in. If it goes in the red slot, you've calibrated your body to red. Left is red. Okay? You have 2 more shots at this before the system saturates. Place your bets. Next time the ball's out there, do it again. Watch which way your body goes. If it's right, that's black. Put your money on black. You'll win. You can get away with it one more time, then walk away. Because unconscious is saying, this is boring. It's really boring. Walk away and come back. Maintain the novelty. That's one of the reasons why we've succeeded so well. Rhea White, the secretary of the American Society for Psychical Research, sent me a letter years ago saying, how are you guys doing this? How are you succeeding? Well, we can't do this in the laboratory. I'll tell you why. Because in the laboratory, Zener cards. The first time effect, yeah. And then bottoms out. Our targets are so wide-ranging and sundry. Missing child here, missing aviator here, a treasure, a stolen a stagecoach robbery here, lottery here, sports betting here. So we maintain that novelty purposely. We can run into problems as a team if we're working, let's say, 2 missing children. Now, we'll know if the child is dead or alive fast, of course. So we're talking about 2 children's bodies. If we're working the same class or topic at the same time, there's a bleed-through. Unconscious that can't distinguish this missing child from this one. So we'll make sure that we only have one a target of a topical interest, even though we're working several targets at the same time. I don't know if that has answered your question at all, Russ.
Encounter displacement, good descriptions of a wrong target.
If the question is, have we encountered displacement, what's called displacement, good descriptions of the wrong target? Absolutely. I have one member of my team who ran 120, literally 120 sessions, and every time got the wrong target. In fact, we were joking yesterday, we want to put a hidden camera. This is on sports betting. We want to put a hidden camera in his room and watch him, because every time he comes up with an answer, we'll bet on the other one, too. Yeah. I will tell you, it's a little bit esoteric. I'll tell you what my conclusion is about that. This is just me talking. I think unconscious, what I've learned is our teacher. It's not only our complement of being. I didn't even know what an unconscious was when I learned this. I was about as psychic as a rock. But by dint of my labor, I became good by working at it. Our unconscious is our higher mind, our thinking mind, the one that's so fallible. Of course it's not fallible. We all chose the right mates, the right jobs, right? Yeah, that part, the surface mind, is fallible as hell. Unconscious has exactly the right, it's direct knowledge. It's our higher mind, but it's also a teacher. It can be our teacher. We just don't lean on it to teach us, because the egoic mind knows it all. I certainly did when I started this. And I was really upset when my unconscious mind, when Ingo Swann was teaching me something and showing me that my unconscious mind could solve a problem that my egoic mind couldn't. I had no connection. I didn't control this. So that's how I learned about my unconscious and what it could do, that it was got my complement of being. When I integrated that with my ego, then we really started to make some progress, because I knew that egoic mind had to be a servant to this higher mind, but it's also a teacher. And this is trying to teach my team guy, right, that don't do this. You know why? I will tell you why. Because your higher mind can see ahead in time, trajectory. And it can see. He already said, and even I said, if we keep doing this, it's going to be addictive. There's a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not going to be able to walk away. It's human nature. Unconscious is saying, if you do this, your marriage is over. Right? Because even if you don't want the money, your wife is going to want it. And she's going to want this, that, and the other thing. Now, the ties that bind, that brought you together, the human part, it's gone, because now you're concentrated on the material world out there. That's your higher mind saying, don't do it. Don't do it, because the thing that's really valuable in your life is going to be over. So that's my assessment of this situation, for what it's worth. Yes, sir.
Hey, Ed. My name's Henry. I had a question about operation. When you go out to these recon, when you go out to, you have a target, let's say a missing aviator or the treasure or whatever, when you go out there, how do you avoid pollution for your future sessions? Because it seems like when you mentioned the New Hampshire thing, when you got out there, you saw that there was blackberry bushes, so the wreckage must be underneath.
It's a good question.
How do you?
Yeah, I think you all heard the question. The answer is simple. As professionals, we don't get polluted. A professional, a real professional, you can front load the professional, give it to them blind. They don't care. They do not care. They've been taught to absolutely have no biases. We don't care if it's blackberry bushes and we're standing in there and we know the target's there. When we go back into a session, we're robots. Absolutely. That's why I'm such a disciplinarian. Don't even think about thinking. There is no thinking allowed in this process. In fact, as my students, if I see you frustrated or worried when you're session, bam! Because you can't be frustrated and worried unless you're thinking, right? There's no thinking allowed in this. So we nip that in the bud real quick, really quick. The answer is a professional can work a front-loaded or a blind target. It's the same, and I am not kidding. So it is the pollution thing for a professional is non-existent. For a student, we would never do that, ever. Students have to work blind until they get it down. They've got to work blind targets. We don't teach front-loaded targets until workshop number 2, which is perhaps 3 or 4 days in the training. That's the first time a student is allowed to even touch a front-loaded target. And then we have some tricks so that we make sure it's not really front-loaded. We slip them a Mickey.
Jim Frella, one of your students.
I know.
Hi, Ed.
Hi.
Technology. This is the question. I see from your lecture you use satellite imagery. Worldview 1 just went up last month. Next year, Worldview 2 is going up. What other technology are you using in remote viewing?
The internet is so wonderful. When I first took this public and had a company, Paul and others and Lynn were my employees. I filled out W-2. We paid the operation. We had paid contracts. That's
a W-4, Ed.
Yeah, W-4, W-2, close enough for government work. I moved to New Mexico, and it was where I wanted to move. The fax machine, these guys could fax in their work to me. It was wonderful. And then comes the internet. Internet is a godsend in our work, a wonderful thing. Satellite imagery is great too. I don't know what other, that's it. That's all the technologies that we use now. We use satellite imagery and we use the internet. The internet is so wonderful in terms of our work because and unconscious can adapt in terms of feedback to what's on the internet. For instance, let's say we're looking for America's Most Wanted. Case in point, we had a guy that blew up his house and destroyed his 2 children and his wife, put bullets in all their heads. So we're after this guy. He's up in the Midwest somewhere. We can use a cue instead of that particular region's most recognizable feature. We can maintain that cue, and then unconscious will look at the available lexicon or thesaurus within the internet, because unconscious knows we're going to go to the internet. It's looking forward in time. Mine's outside of time in terms of its trajectory. It can see the feedback or what's available for feedback. Go to the internet and choose, let's say, a unique stadium or a unique roller coaster ride. They're unique in the world. And let us know that our target is near this particular feature. And it's a really quick search on the internet. Years ago, I had to go literally to the Library of Congress from Washington, D.C., tomes of books to find something close to what we thought was the target. And now it's just a matter of microseconds. It's wonderful. So that, in terms of technology, I'm very happy.
Hi, Ed, a former student. I was wondering if you had any concerns over the occupational hazards of IRV in that, like, Pat Price and Shafika Karigler died under mysterious circumstances because they knew too much. And
That's right. A drama queen.
And what has the Avery uncovered on the alien issue, like Hal Puthoff is the owl, John Alexander is the penguin? Have they come to the conclusion that David Icke is right, that the top tier of the powers that be are reptilian shapeshifters?
Remember the pregnant Martians in the mountain? Anybody remember? How many people go that far back? Yeah, okay. How did I know they're pregnant? I made them pregnant. That was a tough job. They're hermaphrodites. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. That probably answers your question, but I will tell you right now, one of the reasons I got out of the Army was my fascination with the UFO problem. And we did not have the charter, despite what anybody thinks, we did not have a charter in DOD to look at those things. We don't. As long as they're not a national security threat, we have no business spending tax dollars. I did anyway. We had no business spending tax dollars because there was no charter to take a look at UFOs and related enigma. But that's what I wanted to look at. Actually, many people in the unit, all the way up to the top, wanted that too. They were licking their chops because they knew that remote viewing could give them some insight into that. Most fascinating, one of the most fascinating problem sets today. But we couldn't pursue it, so I got out to pursue that, and that's my background there. And the contact protocol, the reason I'm pursuing contact, some of you know that the agency that I've chosen to look at was whatever orchestrated that event in 1994 in Harare, Zimbabwe, with those school children. John Mack was on the site there, too, interviewing the school children. There was an event there. Some of you can go on the internet and read about it. I specifically looked at that event, and what we did was establish there is an outside agency, entities, that were connected with orchestrating that event. I won't go into the technical details. So I chose them because they chose children, and the message that the children got was, your world is dying. We're very sad because your world is dying. I thought, well, you know, in terms of resource management, it takes some money and things like that, even if this oversight committee is 100 million years ahead of us technologically, nominally. It still takes somebody's intentionally did something which appears to be altruistic or egalitarian at some level. I'm going to look at these guys here rather than the reptilians or whatever they are. Okay? So I wanted to know, in fact, if contact is even part of their agenda. If it is, I want to know what their protocols, their criteria for contact is. That system, that's what we remote viewed. What is their criteria? And instead of trading Earth women or something, they might be the Ferengi. But, you know, they're here, but the bad news is the Ferengi. We didn't want that to happen, but we wanted to know what the protocols were. And it turns out that there is a protocol for contact. It's a place. It's two places, a point in the southern hemisphere and a point in the northern hemisphere. It isn't like if you build it, they will come. If you go there, they know you're there. And what will happen after that, we're not sure. We can't suss this out. But that's what that contact is all about, and we spent years out in the field. Some of you have been in the field with me. Jacques Vallée has been in the field with me on Close Encounters of the Second Kind. But that's not what we wanted. We wanted CE3s. And my agenda is mentorship. I firmly believe, as most of you know, Dr. Doom, we're going down, and nothing's going to stop us. No prayer, anything. We don't have it together. We're going down. My agenda is on rebuilding. Let's start constructing now. Let's form the template to start to rebuild now. But we have to have mentors because we're going to make the same mistakes again. So we have to ask for help. We need mentors, and I think unconscious is the lingua franca all out there. No matter whether you're a bicameral brain on this planet or something else on another planet, consciousness really is the lingua franca. We took a path that's technology oriented. But mine is the greatest technology of all. It makes all this stuff. I'm going off on a tangent, which I'm still want to do, but that's okay. This is an informal talk. And wait till we get to the bar. You think tangents? Well, I'll tell you about tangents. Yes?
My name is Jean Millay.
Hi.
And I have a couple of comments and a question. In 1975, I thought that if we triangulated the planet and tuned our brain waves into the Earth ionosphere waveguide, we could say who goes there, friend or foe. And we set up this experiment, and we got a lot of interesting results, but it didn't go the way we wanted to. But now, if we were talking about the Internet, and there's all those 2,000 satellites out there, and they're expecting a solar max, which will wipe out half of them or more.
Kill shot. Uh-huh.
So what is your projection or your idea of what's going to happen?
You're going to die. You are going to die. I'll tell you that right now. We're all going to die.
But that's only satellites.
That stuff I put on the kill shot. I've talked about that openly all the time. Yes, the sun is going to go, like I said, 2 weeks before, the largest solar flare in history, the sun's about to go on a rampage. Yes, it did. X30, 45 plus or whatever went off the scale. They had to create a new scale for that, too. That's just the beginning. Long term, there's going to be no water. The lesser developed countries now that don't have resources, they're going to suffer first, but it'll catch up with us.
Do you think, I mean, currently we live way up in the hills on solar power and a natural spring and not anywhere near other folks. And, it's great. You can carry a thought for long periods of time without distraction. I'm happy to be here. There's so many people to talk to. But overpopulation is causing global warming. Do you think
That's a statement. That's in your opinion, and that hasn't been resolved yet.
No, but I see what happens when a developer wants to put another 3,000 houses in Nevada where there's no water.
I'm missing your point.
I was just wondering when you say we're all going to die, is it because of the...
I'm being facetious.
Oh, good. But the global warming with the religious thing the way it is about not controlling population, isn't that...
I'm a technician. All
You're
this
not
is
gonna do
philosophy. I'm not Paul's a philosopher. I'm a technician.
I think you've mistaken us for an Al Gore seminar. Those are all important issues, but I don't see the RV connection right here. So,
Precognition.
Oh, precognition? Well, what? In other words, can we foresee what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we have a real problem with that because in remote viewing you need feedback, right? So if you remote view and you have the end of the world coming and you get there and it doesn't end, obviously it was AOL, right? If you remote view it and you see the end of the world coming, the end of the world comes, you don't get any feedback. Okay, so I don't know what to say beyond that. Okay.
Okay, Paul Lane. Couple of questions. One is, you discussed about sports betting, and so I'm curious, let's take a scenario with, say, the Super Bowl, and let's say one of the teams were Tampa, and, well, I don't even know that there are any monuments or anything in Tampa that anyone would recognize, and I've lived there, so I think you're going to have a tough time with that. But why not instead, say, target the jersey colors of the winning team or something?
Because why not? The question was, he lives in Tampa and he's not sure what recognizable features there would be, even living there too. That's unconscious adjudicates. It's the master problem solver. It hooks in with the global mind. Global mind looks at the internet. If you're going to go to the internet and type, you literally type in Tampa, recognizable, unique or recognizable features. Whatever pops up there is going to be, it's feedback through time, crosstalk through time. It's going to pop up with whatever you need. It's your best friend. Unconscious is your best friend. Not your husband, not your wife. Your unconscious is your best friend. Trying to keep you alive. Don't get on that plane tomorrow, whatever. So it will find whatever it needs. So you don't have to suss it out. No thinking involved, too. In terms of the colors of the jerseys and symbols, we find that could be supporting information, but we never use it as professionals as primary data, ever, because we found over the years, 2 decades of training, that pink to one viewer is orange to another, and vice versa. Some people do better colors than others, and you just can't use it. Our techniques are standardized. I don't care whether it's somebody's missing cat or a stolen nuclear weapon. We do it the same way every single time. It's very easy to teach. But colors, that sensory impressions like that, until you have about 30 minutes in session, the colors aren't correct. And then we run into the problem of a personal lexicon. Remember, in the matrix out there are no words. There's no words. It's patterns of information, like an electromagnetic spectrum. You've got to have a modulator, something to decode those patterns. Our brain does that, but we go right brain to grab a pattern. Then, in a tachistoscopic fashion, we go left brain to look for a label for that particular pattern. If I were to have you remote view a Bolshoi ballet performance, blind target, and the curtain was red somewhere, and you've never experienced the color red in your life, then there's no label to put on that. That's why when I teach children, I've taught a lot of children, Tokyo, other places like, children are great. You don't have to ask them to open up their mind because it hasn't closed yet, like us staid, stoic fogies where, the children have an open mind still. But they have a very limited thesaurus. They don't have experiences. So harking back to my example, if you've never experienced the color red before, the pattern's there, right brain, but it has no label. There's nothing to stick it to. So you'd have to use the next best thing. It's like pink. It's like chartreuse.
Sounds good. One more question, if you'll humor me, more on the UFO side, because that's something you're so knowledgeable about. Some would say that different ET species have psychic abilities. If so, what protocols do they use? Has anyone looked into that? Maybe we can improve our RV protocols a little bit with just borrowing. Yeah, well, whatever.
I think that in terms of whatever's out there watching us, I think I'm only interested in this one particular agency. I don't know what species they are yet. Rather than trying to use remote viewing to determine that, I think it's just better and go have a coffee clash with them or something like that. And see, let them tell me what they are, okay? With one exception, though. A lot of sightings that we are familiar with in terms of remote viewers are humans. And we thought that they were moving back in time, that these are human beings in time travel, but they're not. They're actually humans that are from that. I don't know if DNA was taken from this planet or humans are taken from, or whatever, raised on another planet by another agency, by actual entities that do not look like us. And these humans are sort of a missionary group, an aid group for what's coming down. They they are actually in vehicles. I hate that term vehicle, but these guys are actually in vehicles. They do a lot of monitoring of this planet, and a lot of those sightings are those people. And having looked forward in time, we know that after the dust clears, after what's coming, they're going to be here. So this mentorship idea that I have could be redundant. We're probably going to get help anyway. I think that we are. But Lex Luthor ain't got nothing on me. I mean, I'd like to get my foot in on the ground floor here. Maybe be mayor of Chicago or something. Chicago's still around.
So, coffee clutch with aliens, that brings to mind, has anyone remote viewed what coffee does to alien biology? There you go.
A comment. I don't have a question. It'd be fun to go over to the bar and listen to, what comes up, but I'm
more
going
fun
to
for
be
me.
going. Another time. The comment is just that. I can't stay to hear you. Earlier when I mentioned the archives and all the old stuff, and you said, you very much look to the future and not interested in the past. And so I want to take this moment to just make a comment to everyone. I'm leaving real quick after you're done. People that, to me, like just looking at the future without looking at the research of the past is like putting a roof on something without a foundation. So
No, I am not saying that. I'm going to interrupt you on that note.
Okay.
I am standing on the shoulders of giants. Inga Swan, there's nothing but respect for him. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. They happen to be dinosaurs, but they're giants.
Right, but the rest of us didn't have that. So my only point is that anyone who wants to get those archives, there's a couple sets left, would want to do it right away, because I'm going to throw them in the suitcase and run away. And so I wanted to say that because someone asked me earlier, well, where are they? And so, I don't have them out. So they're out now. You can't have them because you want the future.
Right.
But other people
Never look
here-
back. Burn those bridges, too, as all my exes know.
You got to be in front of the speaker.
You triggered a memory. Back in the early 90s, you had given me a target. It was a crop circle. And I think we discussed it. As I was viewing the crop circle, I had an experience that I'll never forget. I had two black eyes looking back at me. And you want to tell me who we were talking to?
It was a raccoon.
No, it wasn't a raccoon.
There are classes of targets that somehow trigger the attention of other entities. And how, you can call them what you may, but they know when you're looking at them. And most humans don't. For instance, real time, if I were to remote view anybody in this room, you would not know that I'm doing that. Psychics, in fact, my KGB counterparts, we were targeting the Soviet Defense Council. They actually used to station very gifted extrasensors, is the Russian word, in the Defense Council meetings to see if anybody was popping in. But remember now, I'm not remote viewing you as, there's no energetic contact with you. I'm remote viewing you the way you exist as a pattern of information in the book of you, some other dimension. So there's no energetic contact at all. There's a pinging that can happen, but only really gifted psychics, sensitive people in real time will know that's going on, generally speaking.
I think this is going to have to be the last question, unless there's somebody really dying to ask one out there. I think we'll wrap it up with...
Ed, my name is Rich, and
Hi.
we barely touched on your Dr. Doom persona. Over the last 10 years, you've told us about several ways that 80% of us are going to be gone in many different ways, and none of that's kind of taken place yet. What happened to the timelines?
It is in Africa, isn't it? We can't do timelines. I told you. That's the one thing we have not solved, is the timelines. We can look ahead. It's the way I tell my students, it's very easy for us or prophets or anybody, and we don't have any monopoly yet. Matrix Intelligence Agency doesn't have a monopoly on what we do. We have a monopoly on accuracy and detail, I think. But we can't tell, we can see these big events coming the same way you could if you're a trained remote viewer. You can see the events. They're big. They loom like a big mountain in the distance. But you don't have any parallax view as a remote viewer. You can't see how far in time that thing is. It's there in your face. A solar flare or a war or disease is the big one. Watch what happens real soon, folks, with disease. We're on the cusp of a pandemic that's going to take out a whole bunch of people. Okay, that's the Dr. Doom part. But we can't see how far it is until the acme of that particular event. But we can see it very clearly, the same way you would if you were a remote viewer, trained remote viewer. So we just can't adjudge that distance yet. But I'm just happy with solving the search the search problem right now. We'll deal with the time thing maybe if we have time, but I don't think we do.
Okay, so looking in the future is not a 100% thing like it used to be when you said...
Seeing that mountain is 100%. Anybody can see what's coming if they look that way. We don't know when the when is.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. But there used to be dates.
I've never put dates on it. We can bracket an event. We can bracket an event.
Now, Ed, I think that's a fair question. Actually, you have put dates on it. I don't want to put you on the spot. Well, very much. But there are a number of occasions when you actually put specific dates on events that didn't happen. And so I think it's fair to see what kind of response you can have for that.
What we've done is bracket, because we can't put dates on accurately, we bracket the event. We remote view. We take the particular thing we're looking at, a doomsday scenario, and we remote view the most recognizable preceding event, maybe a unique kite festival or a race or something like that. So we get a ballpark idea of where this might be. When you see this kite festival or you see this event, hunker down, dig in. That's the best that we can do at this juncture. Right now, we're dealing with the old adage, if you're so good, why ain't you rich? So we want to attend to that first, and we'll work on the time problem.
Okay, I guess I'll let you dodge that one for now.
They don't call me Fast Eddie for nothing.
That's right. Okay, we actually had two questions, one from Tamara, and since we are starting to move up towards 1 o'clock, I'll let her ask it, but if you could both keep it kind of as short as possible, because then Russell had a further one that is of interest.
Okay, if there's any other questions, I will hang out around in the hall of the bar.
You formulate it. You're the one that...
Well, let's see if I can talk that fast. I get nervous around microphones. You said earlier something about how when you observe something, you create it, and I guess...
No, I did not say that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Well, then never mind.
Okay, Russell wanted to know what insights you might have had into Pat Price's demise.
I have never remote viewed anything about Pat Price. I use remote viewing because we trust it. We can't trust her analysis. I've never tasked any of my team members with looking at Pat Price, nor have I looked at him myself. I was very interested in, I think some of you know that we we tried to squeeze money out of the Air Force. We had this, some of us, I was the junior most member on a special working group. We disguised ourselves under the rubric of the Advanced Theoretical Physics Working Group. All that was really a UFO working group. We were trying to use DoD assets and resources to look at the UFO problem because we were all interested in it. It had nothing to do with national defense, but we tried to squirrel money out of General Abramson and Star Wars program to do that. At that meeting, it was a secret meeting at a sensitive compartment and information facility at the BDM Corporation years ago. Hal Putoff was there as well. We talked about the places that Pat Price had told us about. Mount Inyangani, Tanganyika was one, Mount Zeal, Alaska. And those places I did remote view. In fact, I slipped people like him and Mickey in advanced training about to look at places like that. And yes, there
And
were
I'm still recovering.
Yeah, me too. There were enigmatic things, but no conclusions that we could draw. As far as what happened to Pat Price, I hope it doesn't happen to me. No, just kidding. I have no idea if there was any conspiracy behind that or whatever.
Well, this has been very interesting.
Can you turn me off, Paul?
Turn you on? I never turned you on in the first place. Sorry. You're not my type, let me tell you. Okay.
You can sleep in my tent, little big man.
I'm sorry, I don't get that. You know,
I know.
Go find
Put a stick in
Larry
the mud.
Craig or whatever his name
Party
was.
put a
Anyway,
stick in the mud.
we really appreciate Ed attending and